The United States was founded on the principles of life, liberty, and digital property. On life, liberty, and property. I'm going to make the argument that it's on digital property as well. These ideals were embedded directly into our founding documents. And many people have come from all over the world to have access and to have these rights protected, as well as fought and died for us to have these rights. Today I'm issuing, today I'm issuing a warning to the community, to the country, that we are at serious risk of losing some of our most sacred rights because there are too many people that are playing politics with Bitcoin and blockchain technology. It was John Locke who first really wrote about the principles of life, liberty, and property. John Locke argued that property rights should be considered natural rights. They're absolutely critical to security, they're critical to liberty, and that the sole purpose of government is to protect the people's life, liberty, and property. And these ideals made it directly into the Declaration of Independence, played a critical role in the foundation of the United States, as well as democratic government structures around the world. I believe that John Locke would have been a huge proponent of Bitcoin and blockchain technology and cryptocurrency because Bitcoin allowed for the creation, the introduction of digital property rights. Thanks to Bitcoin, we can own and control our digital properties. And this is absolutely critical for the 21st century for us. In our work at the Digital Chamber, doing education and advocacy with policymakers and government staffers and members of Congress, a question that we keep getting is, well, why do I need Bitcoin? We have things like PayPal and Apple Pay and Venmo and lots of really great applications. I use all of these. I'm sure you guys do too. We already have digital payments. We already have electronic payments. What do I need Bitcoin for? There is a very big difference between having a third-party intermediary, whether that's your bank or PayPal or Apple Pay. And again, these are great companies, but there's a very big difference between having that third party move your money around at your instruction versus you being able to move your money yourself. That's a very big difference. With Bitcoin, we can do peer-to-peer transactions. So I see some Liberty caps in the audience. Thanks for those who are joining our Liberty movement. They're for sale for $35 at our booth. You can go get one. You can pay with PayPal or crypto to get one. If you pay with PayPal, by the time you effortlessly open your app and push the send button, from the time that we get paid or a merchant gets paid, there can be as many as 12 steps in that transaction. And every step of the way, there's a middleman that sits in between that's moving your money. They're providing the service of moving your money, and they're getting paid for that, which is totally legal and legit. However, this is going to be obviated. This is the industry that will be disrupted by blockchain. We spend over $2 trillion a year collectively, globally, just to move our money around. With Bitcoin, we can bring that down to, you can do it for free, and we can bring it down to 2 steps, just you and whoever you're transacting with. That is the difference of Bitcoin versus digital payments or electronic payments that we have today. So in order to, I think, fully appreciate as Americans, why do we need this? Like, what is really the value of this? Because, yeah, we do benefit from a sophisticated financial system. I like to say we suffer from a thing called exorbitant privilege here in the United States. We are the world's reserve currency. We get to benefit from the best and the most robust banking system in the world. So it might just be helpful to see what's happening in some other places to appreciate, why is this technology needed and who can really benefit from it. The first place I'm taking us to is Sudan. The United Nations is saying that Sudan is a crisis of economic proportions. I won't get into all the details, but there's a civil war going on. You can read about it. It's very, very sad. A lot of people have been displaced from their homes. They're living in refugee camps. People are literally starving to death. There's not enough food. It's a dire situation. This is the central bank, the Sudan central bank, literally on fire. The banking system has basically collapsed. Basic needs aren't being met. Forbes did a story on a family who's trying to get out. Part of their family made it to Ireland. They're trying to get their parents out. They need to pay for a bus ticket to get the parents to Ethiopia to get them to safety. They can't figure out how to send them money. They can't PayPal it. That's not really an option. They're using Bitcoin. Another country to pay attention to is in Venezuela. It's, very similar situation. They're going through hyperinflation. At the peak, their inflation rate was 1.7 million%. Carlos Hernandez, a Venezuelan economist, wrote an article for the New York Times a couple of years ago talking about how Bitcoin has served as a critical role just to be able to survive in that type of environment. These are just a few stories, and there's so many more that we've collected all around the world about how Bitcoin is making an impact in people's lives, about how Bitcoin is serving as an alternative to the traditional system in unique and dire situations. I think here in the United States, an area where Bitcoin is going to have a massive impact is for the younger generations, millennials, Gen Zs, who are struggling just to get by. One of the biggest concerns of younger Americans is, how am I going to make ends meet? We're working harder. We're working 2 jobs, 3 jobs in some cases. We're struggling to pay rent, buy gas, buy groceries. The cost of everything is going up due to inflation. A lot of people are waking up that I need something to protect myself, and a lot of people are turning to Bitcoin for that. One other just use case to highlight is domestic abuse shelters. There are a number of domestic abuse shelters today that have turned to cryptocurrencies to help victims of domestic abuse. Oftentimes, particularly women, when they're the subject of domestic violence or abuse and they end up in a shelter, they are on the run. And oftentimes, they're not the ones in control of their bank account. Their husbands are, or their partner are, and they show up with nothing. And these shelters are using cryptocurrencies just to help people in extremely dire situations. There is a huge need for this technology. Don't let anybody tell you we don't need this, because we have, the traditional system has it covered. It is my view that Bitcoin and access to cryptocurrencies is a human right. This is a natural right. This is our right to property in the 21st century. This is our right to digital property, to be able to own and control our digital assets and transmute them across internet protocol at our discretion. This is our freedom of speech. Software is protected under the First Amendment. Of course, cryptocurrency is an open source software. It should be recognized as a form of speech because software code is a language. We have a right to exercise and use this language as Americans and people. This is also our right to assemble. We have the right to use blockchain rails to coordinate and collaborate digitally. If anyone tells you that our rights are not at risk, they are wrong. You're wrong if you think that. We have significant attacks underway to restrict our access to this technology. I believe this is the most important issue our generation is facing, and it is up to us to participate and to do something about it. I'm sure everyone is aware of the attacks on free speech with social media platforms that's been heavily covered in the news. Don't think that we are not a part of that same conversation as well. We should be just as concerned about free speech as is taking place online on social media as it is with restricting access to open source software systems like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. There are multiple attempts underway right now in this town across the US federal government to restrict our access to digital assets and cryptocurrencies in the center of the free world. I might expect this in China or, I don't know, the Middle East where, people like me probably can't do things like this, but not here in the United States. These are just a couple proposals that are either already enacted or underway. The most egregious is Senate Bill S2669. This is the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act. You've probably heard about it. You may have heard me talk about it because I've been calling from the rooftops that this is a very dangerous piece of legislation. It's been introduced by Senator Elizabeth Warren. This is the Democrat sponsor. It has a lead co-sponsor of Roger Marshall, a Republican. It has bipartisan support. There are 19 members of the Senate that are sponsoring this bill, which means roughly 20% of the U.S. Senate is on record of supporting banning your access to free speech, to your right to property, to your right to assemble today. We must take this seriously. While we at the Digital Chamber fully support regulating financial services companies, we support regulating an intermediary that's taking custody, providing a financial service to clients, to investors, retail, or whomever. But there is a very big difference between regulating an intermediary that's providing a financial service and preventing individuals, Americans, from exercising their property rights. We must recognize that and stand up against that. This is a fight that we're fighting at the Digital Chamber to stop these bans on digital assets, and we're going to win this fight. We're going to win for a couple of reasons. One, the law's obviously on our side. We're fighting a lot of these battles on the ground, in Congress, in the halls of the agencies. If any of these things make it through any material, legislative or regulatory process, we will challenge them in a court of law, and I think we will win. But we will also win, hopefully it doesn't come to that, but we will also win because we are becoming the majority. Crypto is the majority party. We represent the people of the United States. Today, over 52 million Americans own cryptocurrency. That's a conservative measure that was from a study done a couple months ago. Now that we have spot Bitcoin ETFs, and there's been billions of dollars of inflows into those products, I actually think this number is a lot more. It'll be interesting to see when we get updated data. Out of all of the people that own cryptocurrency in the United States, about 60% of them are Gen Zs and millennials. And in this election, in 2024, 49% of potential voters are Gen Zs and millennials. We are the majority, and we have the power to influence the future. We can win this. So what can you do to help? How can you participate? I've got two things for you. One, we are calling on the people of the blockchain community to come together and participate in political action. This is an issue that should bring us all together. Everyone from Bitcoin maxis to your crypto degens to Wall Street investors to the freedom fighters and everyone in between. This is an issue that should unite the whole community. We need everyone to show up to the polls. And don't just show up. You got to do your research. Know who you're voting for before you get to the polls. Put your members of Congress on record. What is their position on crypto, on digital assets? If they don't have one, call them. Tell them to go on record. We need to know. We need to put members on record because we need to understand how they're going to vote on these bills that restrict our access to using an open source technology ecosystem. And most importantly, don't elect people that are going to play politics with our rights. The second thing you can do is support what we're doing here at the Digital Chamber. If you are not a member of the Digital Chamber, what are you waiting for? We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary later this summer. this is the time that we need you the most. We are facing very real threats, and we can't do this without your support. The time to join is now. And I mean like today. Before you leave the building, stop by our booth, buy a hat, and then sign up for membership. We have reps that will get you signed up today. For those who are already members, and many of you are who are here today, thank you for your support. Please know that this is a huge priority for us, and this is the fight of our generation. For generation after generation, Americans have fought to protect these rights. And it's our duty as Americans to protect these rights that have been handed down to us. We can't be the first generation to just roll over and cede them. That would be a really lame legacy to leave. But more importantly, we have everything to lose as a society if we lose our fundamental rights. And that is what's at jeopardy today. Join us, help us fight and protect the right to life, liberty, and digital property.